The war between humanity and the Zelthar Empire had been short but fierce. In only 7 months, the stars near Saturn had become fields of wreckage. Every day, flashes of blue and gold filled the black void as ships from both sides clashed for control of the outer colonies. The humans were new to interstellar war, yet their bravery and strange tactics had surprised even the most experienced alien commanders. On the Zelthar battlecruiser Vortal, Commander Vurak watched the scanners with calm confidence. The Vortal was one of the largest ships in the fleet, carrying thousands of soldiers and heavy weapons. To him, the humans were no longer a mystery. Small creatures with soft skin and fragile bones fighting with emotion instead of logic. In his mind, victory was only a matter of time. But that morning, something unusual appeared on the radar, a tiny signal, weak and flickering, floating near the moon Titan. It looked like a life pod, a human one. It wasn't moving, just drifting slowly, caught between gravity fields. The crew gathered around the display. "Commander," said the technician, his voice full of excitement. "It looks like an escape pod, human markings. Should we destroy it?" Vurak tilted his head, his yellow eyes narrowing. "No," he said. "Bring it in. Let's see what kind of human survived this long." With careful control, the tractor beam pulled the small metallic pod toward the docking bay. It was burnt and scarred from re-entry, barely holding together. The symbols of the human fleet could still be seen on one side, a blue circle with a white star. Inside the pod, sensors detected faint heat signatures. They were survivors. When the hatch opened, every alien soldier froze. Inside, instead of soldiers or pilots, there were 6 small humans. Children, their clothes torn, their faces pale, but their eyes alert and curious. The oldest looked maybe 12 years old, while the youngest couldn't be more than 7. The silence in the bay was heavy. The aliens stared at the children, unsure what to do. They had fought adult humans before. Strong, fierce, unpredictable. But this was something entirely different. One of the soldiers whispered, "They're young ones. Offspring," another said softly. "Do they even understand us?" The children huddled together, frightened but not crying. The eldest, a boy with messy brown hair, stood slightly in front of the others. He looked around the strange alien ship with wide eyes but kept his chin raised. "I'm Tom," he said in a shaky voice. "We're not soldiers. Please don't hurt us." Of course, the aliens couldn't understand his language. They only heard high-pitched human sounds, but they saw the courage in his expression. Commander Vurak found it almost amusing. "They are small," he said coldly. "Weak, put them in a containment cell. We will send the data to the general." As the children were escorted away, one of the younger girls began to hum softly, a quiet tune, gentle and innocent. The aliens looked at her, puzzled. They didn't understand music, especially not in such a moment. Within the hour, a message reached General Tharkun, leader of the entire Zelthar fleet. He was known as a strict and logical commander, respected and feared by all. His ship, the Iron Fang, orbited nearby. When the report arrived, his first reaction was disbelief. "What do you mean, human children?" he growled through the comm channel. Commander Vurak straightened his back nervously. "Sir, the life pod we recovered contained 6 juvenile humans. They appear harmless." "I thought," Tharkun interrupted sharply. "You thought?" His deep voice filled the room like thunder. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" The command deck fell silent. Every officer could feel the tension through the screen. The general's enormous eyes glared from the display. He was breathing heavily, his chest plates expanding with each growl. "Humans do not abandon their young," Tharkun said finally, his tone low and dangerous. "Not ever. If they learn we have them, this ship will not survive." Commander Vurak looked confused. "Sir, they are children." What threat could they pose? The general slammed his hand on the table, shaking the holographic display. "It is not them you should fear," he said. "It is the ones coming for them." The children were placed in a clean but locked room, metal walls, bright lights, and a single observation window. The aliens had provided food and water, though they did not understand what kind of food human children needed. The little ones stayed close together, whispering in fear. Tom, the eldest, tried to comfort them. "It's okay," he said. "Someone will come for us. Mom said the fleet always protects its people. They'll find us soon." Lily, the youngest, nodded but clutched her stuffed bear tightly. "Do you think they'll know where we are?" she asked in a small voice. Tom looked at the glowing ceiling and whispered, "They'll find a way." Humans always do. On the other side of the glass, several alien scientists observed them with fascination. They took notes, scanned their temperature, and studied the way the children talked and moved. The aliens couldn't understand why the children were not breaking down in fear. There were no tears, no screams. They were nervous, yes, but still thinking, still communicating. One alien turned to the other. Strange. Even in captivity, they cooperate. They comfort each other. Another replied, they adapt faster than expected. Their young ones are different. That comment caught Commander Vorok's attention. He frowned, looking at the children again. They were now arranging the pieces of their food trays in a line, connecting them with small wires from their torn suits. He didn't understand what they were doing, but they were clearly building something. What are they making? He asked. The scientist hesitated. It looks like a circuit. Maybe a communication device. Vorok blinked. Impossible. They are children. A few hours later, General Tharkun himself arrived aboard the Vortal. The corridors went silent as his heavy steps echoed through the ship. His presence was enough to make every soldier stand straighter. He wasted no time. He went straight to the containment section. When he entered the observation room, his gaze fell upon the small humans. One of them, the smallest girl, waved shyly at the glass. Tharkun didn't move. His face was unreadable, but his mind was racing. He turned to Vorok. What do they know about our technology? Nothing, sir. They are just children. The general pressed a button on the console. The image zoomed in on their improvised project. A small metal structure glowing faintly blue. His voice dropped to a whisper. They already built a transmitter. The aliens in the room gasped. The children had taken apart simple objects and created a short-range signal booster. It was crude but clever. Too clever. Tharkun took a deep breath and closed his eyes. They've sent a distress signal, he said. And now, humanity will come. Commander Vorok looked pale. But General, it's just a small pod signal. He cannot travel far. The general turned toward him slowly. You underestimate them, he said. Human ships will cross light years for a single cry for help. And for their young. They will burn entire worlds. In the cell, the children didn't know if their signal had worked. The little device blinked once and then died. Still, they smiled at each other. Tom said, that's enough. Someone saw it. I know they did. Lily giggled softly. Do you think the aliens will get scared? Tom shrugged. Maybe they should. At that same moment, out in the dark between planets, a human ship received a faint pulse. It was weak and broken, but it carried the right code. The emergency tag of Escape Pod 472B. The message was simple but clear. Survivors located. Immediate rescue required. The signal was forwarded across human space within minutes. Ships began to reroute. Engines roared. Orders were given. The humans were coming. Back on the alien ship, General Tharkun stood alone in the control room, staring at the stars. The silence around him felt heavy. His second-in-command approached carefully. Sir, the officer asked, what are your orders? The general did not turn. His voice was calm, but there was a strange sadness in it. Prepare the fleet. The humans will not forgive this, not even for children. He looked one last time at the containment cell, where the small humans were now sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm that was about to begin. Tharkun sighed. They are small, he murmured, but their kind is anything but weak. The Zelthar ship Vortal floated in the dark silence of space. Outside, Saturn's rings glowed softly like a golden crown, but inside the alien ship, tension grew heavier with every passing hour. Since the capture of the 6 human children, no one had spoken openly, yet every soldier felt a strange fear creeping into their thoughts. General Tharkun stood before the main observation window. His massive form was still, his eyes fixed on the endless black beyond. He had fought many enemies before, machines, pirates, even other alien empires, but humans were different. They fought with something unseen. Not just strength, not just logic, but something that made them impossible to predict. Commander Vorok entered the command deck quietly. General, he said carefully, the young humans are stable. They seem calm. No signs of distress. Tharkun turned slowly. His deep voice rumbled through the room. Calm? That is what worries me. Vorok hesitated. Sir, they are only children. Perhaps they do not understand the situation. The general gave him a long look. Oh, they understand. Humans always do. They will be waiting for rescue. He walked toward the display screen showing the containment room. The children sat together on the floor, speaking softly to each other. The eldest boy, Tom, had a piece of metal in his hand and was carving something into it. The others watched as he worked. "What are they doing?" the general asked. "Making marks," replied one of the scientists. "Symbols. Perhaps to pass the time." Tharkun leaned closer. "No," he said slowly. "Those are letters." "They are writing." The aliens watched in silence as Tom finished scratching words into the metal. He held it up for the others to see. The camera zoomed in. The letters were rough but clear. "Stay brave. They're coming." A quiet murmur filled the control room. Even the soldiers who had fought humans before felt something shift inside them. These were only children, yet they showed more courage than trained warriors. Inside the containment room, the children were far from hopeless. Their small space was cold and bright, with walls made of smooth black metal. But instead of sitting in silence, they had begun to work together. It was Tom's idea. "We can't just wait," he said firmly. "We need to do something. Mom always said when you're scared, you think and act." The others nodded. There was Sarah, a girl with clever eyes who had been learning robotics at school. She studied the wall panels. "They use power lines here. Maybe I can connect something." Lily, the youngest, tilted her head. "Like a signal again?" Sarah smiled. "Maybe. If we can get a current, even a small one, we might send another pulse." Tom nodded approvingly. "Good, let's try." The aliens, watching through cameras, saw the children gather bits of wire, food trays, and light strips. They broke off small pieces of plastic and began to fit them together. Their small hands moved quickly and precisely. To the aliens, it looked like nonsense. But to the humans, it was hope. The scientist who monitored them whispered, "They are building again." Commander Vortal crossed his arms. "Why do they never stop?" "Even in captivity, they keep working," the scientist replied. "That is what makes them dangerous, sir." When General Tharkun entered the room later that day, everyone stood straight. He looked tired, his armor faintly scratched from the long campaigns, but his mind was sharp. "Show me the recording," he ordered. The screen lit up with footage of the children testing their new device. It was small, barely the size of a hand, and made from nothing but scraps. Yet when they connected the final wire, a faint spark flashed. A pulse spread through the ship's systems. Every monitor flickered for half a second. "They just sent another signal," said the scientist in disbelief. "I don't know how, but the system detected a short-range transmission." Tharkun's face darkened. "They have already reached someone." Vortal frowned. "Sir, how could a signal that small reach any human ship?" The general stared out the window again. "It does not matter. Humans do not ignore any cry for help, even the faintest one." In the containment room, the children sat together again. Their small device had burned out, but they were smiling. Lily looked up at Tom with wide eyes. "Did it work?" Tom nodded. Even if it only worked for a second, someone might have seen it. He didn't say it aloud, but deep inside he believed it. Humans always had someone watching, listening. Somewhere out there he imagined the stars shifting as human ships turned their way. "Let's keep busy," Sarah said. "If they come, we'll need to show them we're okay." The others agreed. They began to talk about their families, their homes, and what they wanted to do when they got back. Their voices filled the cell with quiet warmth. The aliens watching didn't understand it. "They tell stories," one said. "About their home. About their people." Another nodded slowly. "It gives them strength." Even now, Tharkun watched silently. A strange memory rose in his mind. His own children on the Zelthar homeworld, laughing and chasing light orbs across the sand. For a moment he felt something heavy inside his chest. "These small ones," he said quietly. "They remind me of why humans fight so hard. They are not just protecting land or power. They protect each other." As hours passed, the mood on the Vortal changed. The soldiers whispered among themselves. Some began to question the wisdom of keeping the children at all. "If what the general says is true," one muttered, "then every human ship will come for them. We should release them before it's too late." But Vortal was stubborn. "We can use them as leverage. Humans value life above all else. Perhaps they will trade." When Tharkun heard this, he turned sharply. "Trade? You think you can trade with humans over their young?" "No, Commander. You will not understand until you see it yourself." He motioned toward the window. "Look into the dark, Vortal. You cannot see them yet, but they are coming. When they arrive, you will understand why even the bravest soldiers fear them." The next day, the children woke to a strange vibration. The ship's engines were running at full power, something that hadn't happened before. They looked around nervously. "Maybe they're moving us," Sarah said. Tom pressed his ear to the wall. "No, it's not movement. It's preparation, like they're getting ready for something." In the control room, alarms began to flash. One of the technicians shouted, "Long-range sensors detect human warp signatures." The general's voice was steady but low. "How many?" "5 ships, sir. Heavy-class cruisers." The room went silent. Vortal stared in disbelief. "So soon? Impossible." Tharkun simply nodded. They received the signal. He turned to the communications officer. "Do not engage. Prepare shields and defensive formations, but hold your fire. We will observe." Meanwhile, the children could feel the tension in the air. The lights flickered. Strange sounds echoed through the walls. Tom gathered the others and whispered, "Listen. That's our fleet. They found us." Lily's eyes filled with tears, happy ones this time. "I knew it," she said softly. Tom smiled. "Yeah, you see? Humans don't leave anyone behind." The aliens outside were growing restless. Many had never fought humans up close before, and now they would face them again. This time for a reason much deeper than war. Vortal paced the bridge nervously. "General, if they attack, we will be destroyed." Tharkun did not answer right away. He was staring at the containment cell feed again. The children were holding hands, sitting quietly, their faces calm. They were not afraid of the coming battle. He finally spoke. "They do not cry," he said softly. "Sir?" Vortal asked. "They're young," Tharkun said again, more clearly. "Even when they are surrounded by enemies, even when death approaches, they do not cry." "Do you understand what that means?" Vortal looked confused. "They are too young to understand fear." The general shook his head. "No, they understand it better than we do. But they face it together." He straightened his armor, the metal plates gleaming under the light. "Prepare to hail the human fleet. I will speak to them myself." In the containment room, the children suddenly heard a soft vibration, a low hum that shook the air. Sarah looked up. "That sound? It's engines." "Human ones," Tom smiled. "Then it's time." They stood close, waiting. Outside, through the thick glass, they could see faint flashes in the distance. Blue lights. Human ships had arrived. At that moment, far above the ship, the human cruiser USS Hammerfall exited fold space with blinding speed. Its silver hull glowed in the starlight and its weapons remained silent. The humans didn't come to destroy. They came to rescue. General Tharkun looked at the approaching fleet and spoke quietly, almost to himself. "They will risk everything. For 6 small hearts." His officers exchanged uncertain glances, but none dared to question him. Inside the cell, Lily whispered, "Tom, what happens now?" He smiled gently. "Now," he said, "they'll come for us. Just wait." And outside, in the cold black of space, the first human signal echoed across the void. A simple, strong message that made even the alien soldiers pause. "To the vessel holding human miners, release them immediately or we will retrieve them by force." The children looked up as the ship shook slightly. The rescue had begun, and for the first time General Tharkun understood the truth behind the humans' courage. They never fought for conquest. They fought for each other. The space around Saturn changed that day. Where there had once been only cold silence and drifting dust, now there was movement, bright streaks of light cutting through the dark. The human fleet had arrived. 5 massive ships came out of fold space in perfect formation. Their hulls glowed white and silver, carrying the proud insignia of Earth's unified fleet. They didn't come slowly. They came with purpose. The stars themselves seemed to move aside for their arrival. On the alien ship Vortal, every alarm flashed red. The control deck filled with noise, shouted commands, warning tones, and the trembling hum of rising power levels. Soldiers ran to their stations, their hands shaking as they watched the human ships line up in attack formation. General Tharkun stood in the center of the bridge, silent. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, where the human ships hovered like giants. They were not firing, not yet, but everyone could feel it. The pressure, the promise of action. Commander Vortal turned to the general, his voice nervous. "Sir, they're not moving." "What are they waiting for?" Tharkun's deep voice answered quietly. "They are giving us a chance." "A chance?" Vortal frowned. "To do what?" "To surrender," the general said. "To return what belongs to them. The communication officer shouted, "Incoming message from the human flagship." "On screen," Tharkun ordered. The main display flickered and then the face of a human appeared. She was tall, calm, with a hard expression and sharp eyes. Her nameplate read Captain Vega of the USS Hammerfall. Her voice was cold and clear. "This is Captain Vega of the human fleet. You are holding 6 human miners on your vessel. Release them immediately." No negotiation. No delay. A silence followed. Every alien on the bridge could feel her words like the weight of a mountain. There was no threat in her tone, but everyone understood it anyway. General Tharkun took a slow breath. "Captain Vega," he replied. "They are unharmed." "I give you my word." Vega's eyes narrowed. "Then prove it. Send them now." "I cannot," Tharkun said quietly. "Not yet." Vortal gasped softly. "Sir." But Tharkun lifted a hand, silencing him. He continued, his voice heavy but calm. "My soldiers are afraid. If I release them without order, they may fire. I must first bring order to my ship. Give me 1 hour." Captain Vega didn't blink. "You have 30 minutes, the transmission ended. The silence that followed felt endless. Even the machine seemed to quiet down. Vortal turned to the general, panic on his face.
30 minutes?
"That is impossible." Tharkun said nothing. He was staring at the small screen that showed the containment room. The children were still there, sitting close to each other. They looked tired but calm. He studied them for a long time, as if searching for an answer within their faces. "They do not look afraid," he said softly. "Perhaps they don't understand," Vortal said quickly. "They're too young to realize." Tharkun cut him off. "No, they understand. They simply trust their kind. That is something even our soldiers have forgotten." In the containment cell, the children could feel the ship shaking slightly. The lights flickered again. Tom held Lily's hand tightly. "Is it them?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "It's our fleet." Sarah smiled faintly. "I knew they'd come." The others began to whisper excitedly. Even though they didn't know what was happening outside, their hearts felt lighter. The fear that had followed them for days was finally fading away. Tom walked to the metal wall and pressed his hand against it. "Mom always said," he whispered, "humans never leave anyone behind. Never." Back on the bridge, the tension grew thicker. The humans were still waiting, their ships forming a silent ring around the Vortal. One of the officers turned to the general. "Sir, we cannot face them. Their weapons—" "I know," Tharkun interrupted. "Their technology may be simpler, but their spirit is not. If we fire, they will not stop until we are dust." Vortal clenched his fists. "Then what should we do?" Tharkun's gaze moved to the children's image again. "We do what they would do," he said. "We protect the young." Suddenly the ship shook. An explosion echoed from the lower decks. Sparks fell from the ceiling. "Report," Tharkun roared. An officer shouted, "A missile hit our outer shield." Humans fired a warning shot. The general slammed his hand on the console. "Fools, they gave us a chance and we wasted it." Another alarm blared. The communications officer shouted again, "New message from the humans." "They are boarding." Tharkun froze for a second. Then his voice turned sharp and clear. "Seal the lower corridors. Evacuate non-combat crew. Do not harm the boarding teams." Vortal's eyes widened. "Sir, are you surrendering?" "I am stopping a massacre," Tharkun said firmly. "There is a difference." Inside the containment room, the lights dimmed. The children heard the distant sound of metal twisting. Then faintly the sound of heavy boots, human boots, echoed through the corridors. Sarah gasped. "They're here." Tom nodded. "Stay close. They'll find us soon." The door shuttered once, then twice. There was a loud thud and the panel broke open. Smoke filled the hallway, and from it emerged figures in silver armor, human marines. Their visors glowed blue. The first one stepped forward, lowering his weapon. "We've got them," he shouted into his communicator. 6 survivors found. "All alive!" The children smiled with relief. Lily ran forward and the soldier knelt down, his armor shining. "It's okay, kid," he said softly. "You're safe now." The Marines quickly formed a circle around the children, guarding them from all sides. Tom looked up at the armored figure and asked, "Are we going home?" "Yes," the soldier said. "Right now." In the command deck, alarm screamed louder. "Human Marines have breached Section 9, shouted the technician. "They're retrieving the captives." Vortal looked at Tharkun. "Should we stop them?" The general's voice was calm. "No, let them go. But sir, our orders no longer matter, Tharkun said. What matters is survival. He opened the communication channel again. Captain Vega, he said, his deep voice echoing through the static. Your children are safe. I have ordered my soldiers to stand down. No one will harm them. The human captain's face appeared again. Her eyes were still cold, but now there was a hint of respect. You did the right thing, General. Do not thank me, he said. I only wish to live another day. Vega nodded. Then you will. Retrieve your people. Once the children are secure, we will leave. Minutes later, the human Marines returned to their shuttle with the children. They moved quickly through the corridors, their lights cutting through the smoke. Alien soldiers stood aside, watching silently. None dared to attack. As the humans passed, even the alien guards could see the strange look in the children's eyes. Calm, trusting, unbroken. One of them whispered, "They look at us without hate." Another replied quietly, "Because they know they're going home." When the shuttle launched from the hangar, Tharkun watched it go from the bridge window. The small craft glowed faintly against the rings of Saturn. No one spoke. Every eye on the ship followed its path until it vanished into the docking bay of the human flagship. Only then did the general turn away. "They will not destroy us now," he said. "They have what they came for." Vortal looked ashamed. "I did not understand, sir. Why do they care so much for the young?" Tharkun's expression softened. "Because, Commander, to them every child carries the future of their kind. When you fight one human, you face all of them. When you harm one child, you face their entire species." Aboard the USS Hammerfall, the children were greeted with cheers and tears. Doctors checked their health while soldiers smiled with relief. Captain Vega entered the medical bay, her hard expression melting into warmth. "You did well," she said softly to Tom. "You kept everyone alive." Tom smiled shyly. "We knew you'd come." Vega nodded, touched by his words. "We always come." She looked through the window at the distant alien ship. "Maybe," she whispered to herself, "they'll remember that." On the Vortal, Tharkun stood alone in the dark bridge. His soldiers avoided his gaze. The war was not over, but something had changed within him. He opened his personal log and began to record. "We captured 6 of their young. We expected weakness, fear, surrender. Instead, we found courage, unity, and hope. They do not fight because they enjoy war. They fight because they cannot bear to lose even one of their own. Today I saw why the humans will never be conquered. They are small in body, yes, but their hearts are vast." He turned off the recorder and looked once more toward the stars. Far away, the human fleet was preparing to leave. Their ships moved with silent grace, their engines glowing like blue suns. Tharkun whispered quietly, "Go, humans. You have taught me enough for one lifetime." The Vortal had grown eerily quiet. The alarms had stopped. The engines hummed steadily, and the crew moved in a tense, nervous rhythm. Though the human children were gone, escorted safely by the USS Hammerfall, the shadow of their arrival lingered across every deck. General Tharkun stood in the center of the command bridge, arms crossed, his massive claws tapping lightly against the metal console. His gaze was fixed on the empty void of space where the human fleet had vanished moments ago. The aliens around him whispered among themselves, their voices low and uncertain. Some tried to maintain discipline, some cowered. All were uneasy. Commander Vortal approached slowly. "Sir," he said, "the crew is asking questions. They want to know why you ordered no attacks on the humans while they retrieved the children. It seemed illogical." Tharkun did not turn immediately. His eyes remained on the stars. "Illogical?" he repeated quietly, almost to himself. "No, Commander. It is the most logical choice I have made in my life." Vortal's antennae twitched nervously. "But they could have destroyed us, sir. The humans could have ended this ship with a single strike." The general finally turned to face him. "They chose not to. They risked themselves for 6 small humans. That is not weakness, Commander. That is power." Vortal's eyes widened. "Power over children?" Tharkun's deep, rumbling voice filled the room. "You do not understand. Humans are not measured by their weapons, nor by the number of soldiers they command. They are measured by what they are willing to protect. And the moment you understand that, you realize why they cannot be defeated." In the containment area below, the children had been safely escorted to a small ward aboard the USS Hammerfall. They were cleaned, given food, and allowed to rest. Tom leaned back on a padded chair, his eyes scanning the stars through the viewport. Lily sat on his lap, still hugging her stuffed bear. Sarah and the others explored the room, quietly inspecting the human technology that surrounded them. "Do you think they will come back?" Lily asked softly. Tom smiled, though a hint of worry remained in his eyes. "Yes, they always come. Humans don't leave anyone behind. Remember?" Sarah nodded. "And now we know they will risk everything for us, even their own lives." The young ones were safe, but in their hearts the memory of the alien ship and its immense power remained. Tom clenched his fists. "We have to tell everyone what we saw. Humans are unstoppable when they fight for each other." Back aboard the Vortal, tension continued to simmer. The alien soldiers were restless. Some questioned their loyalty, others wanted revenge. Commander Vortal could feel the unease rising like fire. "General," he said, "there are reports from lower decks. Some units refuse to follow orders. They believe we should attack the humans now while they are vulnerable." Tharkun's eyes narrowed. "Attack? Do you not understand what we witnessed today? These are not creatures you can fight with strength alone. The humans will never forgive the taking of their young. If we fire now, we invite destruction. And not just for us, but for the entire Zelthar fleet. But they are still enemies." Vortal protested. "They invaded our space, attacked our colonies. They must be punished." The general let out a deep, slow sigh. "No, we were the ones who invaded first. We thought this was a simple war of numbers, of power. But humans, they do not fight for numbers. They fight for what is right. And today they showed me something far stronger than any weapon in our arsenal. Mercy." Vortal's eyes narrowed. "Mercy, that will not win wars, sir." Tharkun turned fully, his massive form casting a shadow over the younger officer. "No, Commander. It does not win wars. But it does save lives, and it teaches a lesson some never forget. That lesson will protect my people today." Hours passed. Tharkun wandered through the empty halls of the ship, observing the soldiers preparing for a potential attack. He saw their fear, their confusion. He thought about the 6 human children who had smiled even in fear, who had spoken words of hope and courage while trapped in his custody. He thought about their small hands, their determination, their trust in their kind. He stopped at the observation deck overlooking the stars. The universe was calm here, silent, but he felt the weight of every choice he had ever made pressing on his mind. Could he continue this war? Could he order his troops to fire on a species that valued life so highly, even risking everything for the smallest among them? The answer came slowly, with the clarity of experience and the wisdom of years. No, Tharkun could not order the destruction of the humans. He would not risk his people for hatred or pride. There was a better way, a way to survive, a way to honor the lesson he had been given. He called a meeting with his top officers. The room was tense. The aliens present were puzzled and nervous. "General," one of them said cautiously, "what are your orders regarding the humans? They are still nearby. Their fleet has not departed." Tharkun leaned forward, his claws resting firmly on the table. "We will stand down," he said simply. "No attacks. No hostility. We release all prisoners and allow the humans to retrieve them safely." Vortal's antennae twitched in disbelief. "You mean surrender?" "Not surrender," Tharkun replied. "I call it wisdom. If we fight now, all is lost. If we do what is right, we may yet survive. And perhaps we may learn something." The room was silent. Some soldiers whispered doubts. Some grumbled, but none dared speak openly against the general. Tharkun's voice filled the room, firm and decisive. "Prepare the corridors for their arrival. Open all containment cells for the humans. Warn your soldiers. Anyone who fires upon them will answer to me personally." Meanwhile, aboard the human ship, the children were waiting quietly. They knew that the aliens were watching, but they did not fear them anymore. Tom stood with the others, their small hands brushing against each other for comfort. "I wonder what they think of us now," Lily said softly. "They know," Sarah replied. "They know humans never back down for their young, and they will never forget it." A human Marine smiled at Tom. "They're learning something," he said. "You've taught them courage." Tom nodded slowly. "Not just courage, mercy too." On the Vortal, Tharkun waited. Hours passed, but the general remained patient. Finally, sensors detected human boarding parties approaching. He watched silently as the soldiers advanced, moving carefully through the alien corridors. The first group stopped before the containment chamber. Through the glass, the humans saw the children waiting calmly, standing together as one. The humans did not fire. They only extended their hands in reassurance. "Come on," one of the Marines whispered. "You're safe now." The children stepped forward, following the humans carefully. Lily's eyes shone as she reached for Tom's hand, holding it tightly. Sarah and the others followed quickly behind. Tharkun watched them leave, a strange weight in his chest. He had expected fear, chaos, screams. But the children walked freely, trusting and brave. He had underestimated the strength of humans, even in their youngest members. When the children were safely aboard the human shuttle, Tharkun made his final decision. He would not pursue them. He would not attack. He would not continue the path of destruction he had once embraced. He sent a direct message to the human captain. "Captain Vega, all your people are free. No harm has been done. You may take the children safely. I have learned more from their courage than any battle I have fought." General Tharkun of the Zelthar fleet, the human captain, responded simply, "Thank you, General. You made the right choice. Remember this day. It matters more than you know." As the human ships departed, Tharkun stood alone on the bridge. The corridors of his ship were silent, empty. His soldiers looked to him for orders, but he said nothing. He only stared into the stars, thinking of the small humans, their courage, their mercy, and their hope. At that moment, Tharkun understood the truth. Humans were not just fighters. They were protectors. They risked everything for the weak, the small, the innocent. That was their greatest strength. And it was something no empire, no weapon, no logic could ever defeat. He turned to Vortal. "Do you understand now?" he asked quietly. "Why they are unstoppable?" Vortal nodded slowly, humbled. "Yes, sir. I understand." The general's eyes returned to the stars. Somewhere out there, the children were safe, returning home. And somewhere, a lesson had been written across the hearts of the Zelthar forever. Never underestimate humans, not even the smallest among them. The void of space outside Saturn had returned to its quiet calm. The human fleet moved steadily away from the Vortal, their ships glinting softly against the rings of Saturn. Inside, the 6 human children huddled together in the shuttle, now safe at last. Their small faces were tired, but relief shone brightly in their eyes. Captain Vega, standing beside the pilot console, glanced at the children and smiled warmly. "You all did well," she said. "I know it was frightening, but your courage, it helped save you." Tom, the eldest, nodded slowly. "We tried to stay calm. That's what Mom and Dad always said. Stay together and stay brave." Sarah spoke quietly, her fingers fiddling with a small device she had picked up on the alien ship. "Do you think the others know we're safe now?" "They will," Vega said. "The fleet always checks for everyone. You are never truly alone." The children smiled faintly, comforted by the words. Even in fear, humans had a way of trusting each other and of protecting what mattered most. Meanwhile, aboard the Vortal, General Tharkun remained on the bridge. The human ships had departed, yet he did not feel relief. Instead, a heavy, thoughtful silence settled over him. His soldiers moved quietly, sensing their general's inner reflection. They could feel that something significant had just happened, though they didn't yet understand what it meant. Vortal approached cautiously. "Sir, the human fleet is gone. We are safe, at least for now." Tharkun's eyes did not leave the viewport. "Safe?" he repeated. "No. Safe is a word that does not exist for those who underestimate the humans. They are gone for now, yes, but they will never forget this, and neither should we." Vortal blinked. I still do not understand. Why did they risk so much for mere children?" Tharkun turned slowly to him. "Because to them, every child carries the future of their people. They do not measure worth by size or strength. They measure it by life itself. And when they fight for that life, nothing can stop them." The officer trembled slightly. "Even for just 6 young ones?" The general's deep voice rumbled across the room. "Especially for 6 young ones." The human shuttle moved quietly through space, heading back toward their fleet. Inside, the children began to relax further. Tom leaned against Sarah. "I wonder what the aliens will do now," he said. Sarah shrugged. "Some will be angry, but maybe they'll remember us. Maybe they'll remember that humans protect their young." Lily smiled faintly. "Even the general?" Tom nodded. "I think he saw something. I think he understands." Indeed, back on the Vortal, Tharkun had sent a private message to Captain Vega. The message was short, deliberate, and careful. All 6 human miners have been released. No harm has been done. You may take them safely. This general has learned more today from their courage than from any battle. Tharkun Vega read it silently, then replied simply, "Thank you, General. You made the right choice. Remember this day. It matters more than you know." As the human fleet escorted the shuttle safely back to the outer colonies, news of the rescue spread quickly. Other ships in the fleet monitored the situation closely. The Zelthar had thought that fear and intimidation could rule humanity. But that notion crumbled the moment they witnessed humans risking everything to save their young. On the Vortal, the atmosphere was tense but changed. Soldiers whispered about what they had seen. 6 children, calm in fear, clever in problem-solving, brave without weapons. Even the officers who had once doubted Tharkun now spoke quietly among themselves, realizing that the humans' courage was not an empty promise. Tharkun stood at the observation deck, gazing at the retreating human fleet. His massive form towered over the silent crew. For the first time he allowed a small smile, soft, almost human in its gentleness. "They fight not for glory, not for conquest," he murmured. "They fight for each other, and they never abandon the smallest among them. That is why they are unstoppable." Aboard the USS Hammerfall, the children were debriefed by the fleet's medical and security personnel. Doctors checked their health, soldiers ensured their safety, and engineers asked questions about the strange devices the children had improvised while in captivity. Tom explained carefully, "We just wanted to send a message. We didn't want anyone hurt." Vega watched him closely. "And your plan worked?" Tom nodded. "Yes, it was scary, but it worked," the captain smiled faintly. "You've learned something that will stay with you forever. And you've taught the aliens a lesson they will never forget." Lily tilted her head. "Do you think they will change?" Vega paused, thinking. "Some of them will. Some may always see humans as enemies, but those who remember mercy, those will see differently." Back on the Vortal, the general had called a full council meeting. Every high-ranking officer was present. Tharkun addressed them with a firm but measured voice. "Today we captured 6 human children. We expected fear, weakness, and surrender. Instead, we witnessed courage, unity, and hope. We saw them act not for themselves, but for each other. And they trusted humans far older and stronger than they are to come and save them." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Our empire has fought for dominance for centuries. We have underestimated other species. We have thought strength alone would win wars. Today, I learned that strength alone is meaningless if you cannot protect life." A young officer spoke hesitantly. "General, what does this mean for us?" Tharkun's eyes swept across the room. "It means we fight differently now. Not with cruelty or fear. Not with pride or vengeance. We fight with understanding. And we respect courage, even in the smallest forms." Vortal stepped forward slowly. "Sir, will the humans forgive us?" Tharkun's massive claws rested on the table. "Forgiveness is their choice, not ours. But mercy, that is ours to give. And today we gave it. That act may not end the war, but it begins something far more important. Respect." The officers remained silent, digesting the lesson. Even the soldiers who had wanted to attack the humans now lowered their heads. They understood that there was a strength far greater than their weapons, the strength of protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Months later, historians from both sides would recount this event not for the battles fought, nor for the ships destroyed, but for the capture of 6 human children and the courage they inspired. The Zelthar Empire recorded it as a moment of humility. Some soldiers remembered the general's choice to stand down as an example of wisdom and restraint. Others noted the bravery of the human fleet and the children themselves. And for Tharkun personally, the lesson never left him. Humans were small in body, yes, but in spirit, they were boundless. They fought not out of pride, not for glory, but out of love and courage for those they held dear. In a quiet moment on the bridge of his ship, Tharkun looked at the stars, imagining the 6 children returning home safely. His voice, low and soft, whispered almost to himself. "They are small, but they carry a universe inside them. And that universe is why humans will never be conquered." Years later, during peace talks between humanity and the Zelthar, historians and diplomats often reference the incident. The children of Titan became a symbol not of war, but of humanity's enduring courage and the power of mercy. even in alien archives. Tharkun's personal log remained a testament to the lesson he had learned. They came for 6 small hearts, and through those 6 they taught me more about courage, unity, and life than any battle could. Humans, they fight not just to survive but to protect, and that is why they win. And so, the galaxy remembered the day humans showed that bravery, compassion, and the protection of the innocent were not weaknesses. They were the greatest strength any species could possess.